Hi, my name is Elaine Kunda, and I'm an advisor with the Girls 20 Summit. I'm here today in New York City with the illustrious Arianna Huffington, a woman who really needs no introduction, but I will take a few moments to share some of your many successes with the girls today. Arianna Huffington is the chair, president, and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post Media Group, a nationally syndicated columnist and author of 13 books. In May 2005, she launched the Huffington Post, a news blog and site that quickly became the most widely read, linked to, and frequently cited media brands on the internet. In 2012, the site won a Pulitzer Prize for national reporting. In 2006 and again in 2011, she was named the Time 100 Time Magazine's list of the world's 100 most influential people. Originally from Greece, she moved to England when she was 16 and graduated from Cambridge University with a master's in economics. At the age of 21, she became president of the famed debating society, the Cambridge Union. Arianna, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you, Elaine. It's great to be with you.
Thank you. So I have a few questions today that we're excited to get your answers. The girls, the 21 delegates, will be watching this video in Moscow in just about a week. So we're excited to hear what you have to share with them. So my first question, as you know, the Girls 20 is about cultivating a new generation of leaders. And you have been a role model and inspiration for girls and women of every age. And what we'd really like to do is have you share some personal information about what makes you tick, what motivates you, and also share some of your first big business win and maybe your first big disappointment in business.
Well, first of all, I just want to say how excited I am to be speaking with you and through you, the girls, because I have two daughters who are in college, and there's nothing more important to me than making sure that the next generation of women leaders grow up feeling completely empowered to take on any challenge and achieve anything. And from my experience, the first thing is to overcome our own fears and doubts. That's why I wrote a book called On Becoming Fearless, which was really for my daughters, because women tend to want to do everything perfectly, and we need to learn to just accept that perfection is not of this world, and not to let our own judgments and especially self-judgments get in the way. In my case, I was a very self-judgmental person. I had this voice in my head that I called the obnoxious roommate living in my head that was constantly kind of putting me down and making me question what I was doing. And speaking of failures, you know, I suppose my first big failure was my second book. When I decided I wanted to be a writer, my first book actually was very successful, and then I wanted to write a book on leadership. And I wrote the book, and it was rejected by 36 publishers. And during that whole time, you know, I started questioning whether I really was meant to be a writer, whether I had picked the wrong profession. I also ran out of money. And what really helped me during that difficult period, I was living in London at the time, was persevering, trusting, and not letting my fears and disappointments get in the way. And when I ran out of money, I remember I was walking down St. James's Street in London, and I saw Barclays Bank, and I went in, asked to see the bank manager, and asked for a loan. And believe it or not, he gave it to me.
Wow.
I still sent him a holiday card every year. But for me, this was a little bit about remembering that very often in our lives, if we look back, any one of us, we see that as in fairy tales, when the hero or the heroine is lost in a dark forest, there are all these helpful animals that come out to help us find our way out. And in life, too, there are helpful animals disguised as bank managers or whatever, who are there ready to help us. So to remember that as we go through challenges, and we always will go through challenges.
For sure. Well, thank you for that. I've read a lot lately about your idea of redefining success. And I find that very interesting, and I think it's important for young women and all people to really understand what success looks like. And I'd love for you to share your thoughts on that.
Yes, that's something which is incredibly important to me right now. We tend to define success in terms of mostly two things, money and power. And this is for me like a two-legged stool. It doesn't really work long term. And that's why we launched a section on the Huffington Post and a conference last week that we called Redefining Success, the third metric. The third metric, we deliberately did not give it a specific name because it includes a few things. The first is a sense of our own well-being. Very often people, especially when they're starting in their careers, work round the clock, burn out to the detriment of their health and their sense of well-being. So we need to prioritize well-being and consider well-being an element of success, because what's the point of having money and power if your health has been impaired? The other one is wisdom. We need to really make a point of connecting with our own wisdom, which often includes disconnecting from technology in order to connect with ourselves.
Which we could all learn to do better.
Exactly. And, I've been meditating for many years, and I find that an incredibly effective way to disconnect from all the everyday issues I'm dealing with and connect with something deeper. Then, two more things. Empathy and giving. This is kind of critical, that we need to learn to be empathetic, that success is not just about taking, but about giving. And finally, a sense of wonder about life. There's something magical about life, with all its difficulties, and very often we forget to notice the little things.
Right.
And remembering that can add an enormous amount of gratitude to our lives.
And is this something that is new in your life, or have you always been able to embrace these four other things, the third leg of the stool?
Intermittently, but then in 2007 I had a kind of rude awakening when I fainted from exhaustion and broke my cheekbone, got 4 stitches on my right eye, and that was the beginning of really taking these things much more to heart and making them much more of a priority in my life.
Do you think that's something, that wisdom comes with age and experience, or do you think it's something that these girls could be learning they're all between the ages of 18 and 20?
Well, obviously wisdom comes with age and experience, but I feel that you can have a shortcut.
Right.
There is no reason why you need to go through all the same difficulties and tribulations, because you have that wisdom in you right now. You don't have to be my age to have that wisdom. It's just a question of taking the time to tap into it.
Right. And I think that's the very reason we bring such amazing people together to share with these girls so that they can take these shortcuts. So thank you. There are many powerful men and women who are speaking out openly and frankly about the fact that there is an enormous gender gap in business and also in society as a whole. Organizations like the World Bank and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as individuals like yourself, Sheryl Sandberg, Archbishop Tutu, are speaking openly and frankly. And what my question for you is, how do we take this from conversation to execution? And what do you think are the steps that need to be taken to get more women in the boardroom, but also in positions of leadership and power?
I think two things. What Sheryl Sandberg is saying about leaning in, overcoming our own fears, making sure we ask for what we want is very important. But also we need to change the workplace, because very often women don't want a place at the top if that means leading a life which is fueled by burnout. So I think when women want to be able to integrate all aspects of themselves, it's going to be much easier to achieve a larger number of women at the top of businesses, governments, etc., if we have a workplace that's more humane, and more sustainable. And that means if we redefine success for everybody, not just for women, but for men. And for women, it's even more important because we internalize stress more. So the data is very, very disturbing. Women in stressful jobs have a 40% greater, they are at 40% greater risk of a heart disease and 60% greater risk of diabetes. So this is something very real, and that's why we need to have workplaces that can reduce the amount of stress that work produces. Here in the Huffington Post newsroom where we are now, we have 2 nap rooms.
Right.
We have weekly yoga classes, meditation classes, breathing exercises classes, and we've also launched an app which is free from the App Store if you have an iPhone, called GPS for the Soul.
Right, I read about that.
You know, it gives you a proxy for your stress level, your heart rate variability, and then you can create a personalized guide to help you course correct.
Interesting. So out of curiosity, are these nap rooms and programs that you've put in place, are they widely used and accepted?
Yes, and it's really made a huge difference in people's lives here in our offices. We are opening a new office in Washington, which is actually going to have dedicated meditation, yoga, and nap rooms. And we believe that it also shows all our employees that we care for them as human beings and not just as robots producing things. And in the end, there's no question that people are more productive and more effective.
And I think it's important to point out that we're focused on girls and women, but I think this is applicable to all employees, and it's not just about women.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
About
it's just that
people.
It's just that women would kind of lead the way to changing the way things are because men made it the way they
That's
they
right.
are.
I always say if there were more women at the boardroom table, the conversation would change much faster, and we just need to get more in there to make that happen. So thank you. The delegates watching this video have a really unique opportunity. They are going to be giving a platform and a voice to present to G20 leaders their suggestions and recommendations for change for women globally. And I would love to hear, and I'm sure they would also love to hear, your thoughts and what your recommendations would be for them with this great opportunity in front of them, what they should be saying to these leaders for change for women.
Well, the G20 leaders have already made a declaration in favor of all these women's rights, equal pay, equal access to education, etc. So I think the request should be to move from declarations to action.
Right.
That is really the key now. It's sort of the time has stopped. It's no longer about talking, but about doing. And when we have hundreds of thousands of young women dying at childbirth or because of pregnancy complications, that's like a first primary step, which is young women's health. And then the next one is access to education and STEM education. Even here in the United States, we need women after high school especially to be encouraged and to move into STEM college degrees and STEM jobs which are in such high demand. And also the G20 governments can see the power of social media to organize these young women around all these issues of education, of health. We have a dedicated section on the Huffington Post about global maternal health, and also about service. A lot of these young women want their lives to be about service, so they need to be helped along the way to overcome these very, very basic challenges that they are facing.
It's interesting that you mentioned the STEM careers. One of our big mandates and focus for the conference is how do we get more women interested in STEM-related education and fields. And we did produce a video with my alma mater, actually, on how to get more women in engineering in particular. The numbers are quite shocking. There's still such a few number of women in engineering and especially in technology. Do you have any thoughts on that? And
what is
what have you
interesting is
seen?
that they drop off after high school, certainly in the States. And we find that when women have people in their lives who can help them discover all the possibilities around engineering or STEM education. Megan Smith at Google has a whole program around encouraging women in technology, making sure that they know about all the role models. At our conference on Redefining Success last week, we had Padma Sri Warrior, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Cisco. She's absolutely amazing, and she's doing it her own way. She's one of the top leaders in technology, but she also tells everybody that she gets 7 hours sleep a night. She writes haikus, she meditates. She can show a different way to do these very challenging sort of jobs at the top without in any way sacrificing the lives that many women want to have.
Right. And I think it really is about awareness, and one of the things that we've really focused on is that the success that women have when they do enter into these professions is quite phenomenal, that it's not that they can't do it or that they don't have a natural instinct for it, it's just getting them into it, and that's one of the things that we're really focused on. So that was it for me, my questions. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to share with the girls before we sign off, but
I just want to say congratulations for being part of this great journey, and I want to invite you to write about your journey and your experience on the Huffington Post. And in order to make it easy, I'm going to give you my email address so you can write directly to me, Arianna, with 1 R and 2 N's, at huffingtonpost.com.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you
wonderful
so
to see you
much.
again. Thank you.